The South African rand, or the rand as we affectionately call it, is more than just money. A strong rand can mean good times ahead, cheaper imports, maybe even that fancy German car you've been eyeing. But a strong rand can also make things tough for businesses trying to sell their goods overseas. Think of it like this. You're at a market, right? You've got your beautiful beaded necklace handcrafted in the heart of Josie. Now, if the rand is strong, your necklace suddenly costs twice as much for that tourist from overseas. Let's start with the good news, shall we? There's plenty to be excited about. A strong rand is a dream come true for anyone who loves a good bargain. It means more value for your money. Everything from electronics to clothing, even that fancy imported cheese you like, becomes cheaper when the rand flexes its muscles. You can indulge in those little luxuries without feeling guilty. Imagine walking into a store, seeing the price tag on that imported gadget you've been eyeing. And for once, it doesn't make your wallet cry. It's a liberating feeling. It means being able to finally upgrade that old TV that's been flickering since the last World Cup. Or perhaps even earlier. Or treating yourself to a well-deserved vacation without breaking the bank. Imagine the joy of planning a trip without financial stress. But before you get too comfortable, remember, the economy, much like a South African braai, needs constant attention. Just like tending to the coals, we need to stay vigilant to keep things running smoothly. All right, folks, time to address the elephant in the room. A strong rand, while a boon for consumers, can be a real headache for South African businesses trying to sell their goods overseas. It's a double-edged sword that cuts both ways. You see, when the rand is strong, South African products become more expensive for buyers in other countries. This means that international buyers might look elsewhere for cheaper alternatives. It's like trying to sell biltong at a vegan festival. You might have a great product, but the price just doesn't make sense for the customer. The higher cost can deter potential buyers, making it harder to close deals. This can make it tough for South African businesses to compete in the global market. They face increased pressure to maintain their market share. They're essentially stuck between a rock and a hard place, either lower their prices and take a hit on their profits or risk losing out on valuable international sales. This delicate balancing act can strain even the most resilient businesses. Now let's talk about investor confidence, shall we? You see, the rand isn't just a piece of paper, it's a reflection of how the world views South Africa's economy. When the rand is strong, it's like getting a big fat A+ on that report card. It tells investors that South Africa is a stable and attractive place to put their money. This influx of foreign investment is like a shot of adrenaline for the South African economy. Tourism, the lifeblood of many a nation, and South Africa is no exception. But when it comes to the rand and tourism, things get a little complicated. A strong rand is fantastic news for international tourists visiting South Africa. Suddenly their dollars, euros, or pounds stretch a whole lot further. This means more tourists flocking to South Africa, spending their money and boosting the local economy. But here's the catch. A strong rand can also make South Africa a more expensive destination compared to other countries. Now let's talk about something a little less glamorous than safaris and shopping sprees, but equally important: interest rates. The South African Reserve Bank, or ZAR as it's fondly known, has a tough job. When the rand is strong, the ZAR sometimes lowers interest rates to try and control inflation. Lower interest rates encourage people to spend more money, which can be good for the economy, but lower interest rates can also make the rand less attractive to foreign investors. So the ZAR has to walk a tightrope, carefully balancing the need to control inflation with the desire to keep the rand attractive to investors. All right, folks, time to take our rand on a little international adventure. When the rand is strong, it means that South Africa is holding its own in this global competition. It's a sign that the country is seen as a reliable and stable trading partner. But a strong rand can also make South African exports more expensive, remember? And that can make it harder for South African businesses to compete with other countries that have weaker currencies. So while a strong rand is a good thing overall, it does present some challenges in terms of global competitiveness. Now let's bring it back home, shall we? Let's take a closer look at how the rand affects our daily lives. Because at the end of the day, the economy is not just about numbers and graphs. It's about people. It's about livelihoods. It's about the real stories behind those numbers. It's about putting food on the table and providing for your family. It's about ensuring that your children have what they need to grow and thrive. On the one hand, a strong rand can lead to lower inflation, which means your hard-earned rands can buy more. This can make everyday essentials more affordable, but on the other hand, a strong rand can also make it tougher for some businesses to export their goods, remember? This can impact the competitiveness of our local industries on the global stage, and if businesses aren't doing well, it can lead to job losses or stagnant wages. This can create a ripple effect, affecting not just individual families, but entire communities. Ultimately, the impact of a strong rand on employment and wages depends on a whole range of factors, like the specific industry you work in, the overall health of the economy, and even global economic trends. It's a complex web of interconnections that shapes our everyday experiences. All right, folks, time to talk about debt, because whether we like it or not, debt plays a big role in our lives, from personal loans to government borrowing. Now, when it comes to the rand and debt, things can get a little complicated. If you owe money in a foreign currency like the US dollar, a strong rand is actually good news. It means you can pay back that debt with fewer rands. But here's the catch. If South Africa as a country has a lot of debt in foreign currencies, a strong rand can make it more expensive to service that debt in the long run. Hold on tight, folks, because we're about to hop on the volatility roller coaster, where the ups and downs are as unpredictable as load-shedding schedules. The value of the rand isn't static. It's constantly fluctuating, reacting to everything from global events to local politics. This volatility is often driven by global market sentiment, which can be as fickle as a teenager choosing what to wear in the morning. And just like those fashion choices, the global market can change its mind about the rand in an instant based on factors that are often beyond our control. This volatility makes it challenging to predict what the rand will do next. So, there you have it, the South African rand, a currency that is as complex and multifaceted as the country itself. A strong rand can bring many benefits like cheaper imports, increased real wages, and a surge in investor confidence. But it can also create challenges, particularly for exporters, those reliant on tourism, and industries dependent on international demand. It's a constant balancing act, a tightrope walk between reaping the rewards of a strong currency while mitigating the risks it poses. Ultimately, the goal is to find that sweet spot, that equilibrium where the rand's strength contributes to sustainable economic growth and prosperity for all South Africans.